When Bruce Lee kick, you don't shake your eyes, because when you shake your eyes, you cannot see Bruce Lee kick. You know how fast?
Bruce Lee wasn't just a martial artist. He was something beyond human explanation. His speed, power, and abilities left scientists scratching their heads in disbelief. He could generate so much force from just 1 inch away. Some say it was pure skill. Others believe it was something supernatural. But when you see the evidence, you'll question reality itself. Can science really explain what Bruce Lee could do? Or was he proof that humans can transcend their physical boundaries? These Bruce Lee moments defy the laws of physics and challenge everything we know about human limits. Number 30. The 1-inch punch. Bruce Lee stood on stage in front of hundreds of people, and a volunteer faced him, ready to take the hit. Bruce raised his fist and placed it just 1 inch away from the man's chest. Then, something impossible happened. With almost no movement, Bruce released his punch, and the volunteer flew backward like he'd been hit by a speeding car. He landed several feet away, completely shocked, and scientists who studied the footage couldn't understand it. Normal punches need distance to build power and room to accelerate, but Bruce's fist barely moved at all. Physicists tried to explain the force transfer and talked about muscle activation and body mechanics, but the math didn't add up. The explosive power came from nowhere because his arm didn't travel back and his body didn't wind up. Yet grown men sailed through the air from that tiny motion, and even today, no one can fully explain how Bruce generated such devastating force from less than 1 inch of movement. But that invisible power was just the beginning, as his speed created an even stranger problem. Number 29. Too fast for the camera. Movie directors had a serious problem with Bruce Lee because their cameras couldn't capture him. During fight scenes, Bruce would throw his punches and kicks at full speed, and when they watched the footage later, his movements were just blurs on the screen. The audience wouldn't see anything. The crew asked him to slow down, so Bruce had to fight in slow motion just so the cameras could record him. This wasn't about old technology either, because these were professional film cameras designed to capture fast action. They worked fine for every other martial artist. But Bruce Lee moved faster than the equipment could handle. Cameramen had never seen anything like it, because his strikes happened between frames. One moment, his hand was at his side, and the next moment, it had already hit the target, with the middle part disappearing completely. Scientists know human muscles have speed limits, and nerves can only fire so fast. Yet, Bruce somehow operated beyond those limits. His nervous system seemed to work differently than everyone else's, and technology built to freeze motion in time simply couldn't keep up with him. Yet, Bruce proved he didn't even need his eyes to dominate a fight. Number 28. Sparring while blindfolded. Bruce Lee tied a thick cloth around his eyes, making everything completely dark. He couldn't see his opponent at all. Then he stepped forward to fight a grandmaster martial artist. What happened next left everyone speechless. Bruce moved like he had invisible eyes, blocking punches he shouldn't have known were coming. He dodged kicks aimed at his blind spots, and his counters landed perfectly on targets he couldn't see. The Grandmaster threw everything at him with fast jabs, low sweeps, and surprise attacks from odd angles, but nothing worked. Bruce explained he felt the air movement around him and listened to footsteps and breathing patterns. He sensed body heat and energy shifts, but witnesses said it looked like magic. Scientists call this proprioception and spatial awareness, yet Bruce took it to levels they'd never documented before. He fought without sight, better than most people fight with perfect vision. But this impossible awareness was nothing compared to what he could do with just 2 fingers. Number 27. 2-finger push-ups. Most people struggle with regular push-ups using both hands, but Bruce Lee did them on 2 fingers. Not 2 fingers per hand, but 2 fingers total, with 1 thumb and 1 finger supporting his entire body weight. Doctors who saw this couldn't believe it because the human hand wasn't designed for this kind of pressure. Those tiny bones should snap, the tendons should tear, and the pain should be unbearable. Yet Bruce cranked out rep after rep without shaking, keeping his body perfectly straight like an iron bar. Biomechanics experts studied and calculated the pounds per square inch on those finger joints, and it was astounding. Professional gymnasts with massive grip strength tried to copy him, but failed immediately. It was almost as though Bruce's nervous system somehow blocked pain signals that would cripple anyone else. And even today, almost nobody can replicate this feat. Yet, his fingertip strength wasn't his most devastating weapon, as a simple slap revealed his true power. Number 26. The slap that dislocated a shoulder. During a casual training session, Bruce playfully slapped his training partner on the shoulder with just a light tap. The man's shoulder completely dislocated from its socket, meaning a friendly slap had torn the joint apart. Bruce rushed him to the hospital immediately, and doctors examined the injury in confusion. This type of damage required serious force like car accidents, heavy impacts, or violent collisions, not a playful tap from a friend. Bruce felt terrible about the accident, but it revealed something terrifying about his body mechanics. Even his relaxed movements could destroy joints and bones, and he wasn't even trying to hurt anyone. His muscle fibers generated force automatically at levels most people only reach during maximum effort. So scientists later theorized his fast-twitch muscle density was abnormally high. Every casual motion packed explosive potential, which meant his partners had to be extremely careful during light sparring, because Bruce's gentle was everyone else's devastating. This hidden power became even more shocking when applied to everyday objects. Number 25. Playing table tennis with nunchucks. Bruce Lee walked up to a ping-pong table and pulled out his nunchucks, telling his friend to serve the ball. Everyone thought he was joking, but Bruce was completely serious about playing an entire game this way. The ball came flying across the net, and Bruce swung his nunchucks to hit it back. The ball sailed over perfectly, landing exactly where he aimed it. His friend served again and again, getting faster each time. But Bruce returned every single shot. The nunchucks spun and twisted in his hands, making contact with the tiny ball at impossible angles. Normal people can barely control nunchucks without hitting themselves, yet Bruce used them like an extension of his own arms. The hand-eye coordination required seemed superhuman, and sports scientists who heard about this couldn't believe it was real. His brain processed speed and distance faster than most athletes, but his lightning-fast reactions became even more unbelievable with something much smaller. Number 24. Catching rice grains with chopsticks. Bruce Lee held a pair of chopsticks in one hand, then asked someone to drop a single grain of rice from above his head. Before the grain could fall past his hand, Bruce snatched it out of the air with the chopsticks. One grain sounds easy until you try it yourself, because rice grains are tiny and fall incredibly fast. Most people can't even see exactly where the grain is during the drop, let alone catch it. Bruce didn't just do this once as a lucky trick. He did it over and over without missing. Scientists explained that Bruce's eyes sent signals to his brain and then to his hands faster than what's considered humanly possible. His nervous system transmitted information at speeds that seemed to break biological limits, and his muscle fibers responded instantly. Yet even this incredible speed was supported by impossible strength. Number 23. The Dragon Flag. Bruce Lee lay flat on a bench and grabbed the edges behind his head. Then he lifted his entire body straight up into the air. His legs, hips, and back formed a perfectly straight line, hovering above the bench, with only his shoulders touching the surface. This exercise, called the Dragon Flag, looks simple, but destroys even the strongest athletes. Your core muscles have to support your entire body weight at the worst possible angle, and the strain is absolutely brutal. Most people shake and collapse within seconds, but Bruce held this position and then slowly lowered himself down before raising back up again. Fitness experts today consider the dragon flag one of the hardest bodyweight exercises ever created, and professional gymnasts train for months just to do one clean rep. Bruce made it part of his regular daily routine, cranking out multiple sets without struggling. His strength didn't just show in exercises, though, as one simple trick left witnesses stunned. Number 22. The coin trick. Bruce Lee asked someone to hold out their hand flat with their palm facing up. Then he placed a coin in the center of their palm. He told them to close their hand as fast as they could when they felt him move, and they nodded confidently, thinking this would be easy. Bruce's hand shot down toward the coin, and the person tried to close their fist to trap it. But when they opened their hand to check, the coin was gone and replaced with a different object. Bruce stood there smiling, holding the original coin between his fingers. Witnesses said it looked like actual magic because the person's hand closed on nothing but air. Bruce had somehow grabbed the coin before their fingers could react, and this happened in a fraction of a second. This supernatural speed made him practically impossible to hit. Number 21. The unpunchable man. Skilled fighters challenged Bruce Lee, thinking they could land at least one clean hit on him. But they were wrong. Bruce would stand in front of them relaxed and calm, telling them to attack with full power and speed. They threw their fastest punches straight at his face, but couldn't hit him. He slipped and weaved like he knew exactly where each punch would go before it even started, and experienced black belts couldn't touch him, no matter how hard they tried. They felt like they were fighting a ghost, because Bruce moved just enough to make their strikes miss by inches. Defense experts studied his footwork and head movement, but couldn't figure out his secret. And martial artists with decades of experience said fighting Bruce felt like he could see the future. But speed alone wasn't what made masters speechless about Bruce. Number 20. Speed that left masters speechless. Elite black belts from different martial arts came to watch Bruce Lee demonstrate his techniques. Bruce asked one of them to step forward for a friendly demonstration, and the master agreed confidently. Bruce told him to block a simple punch, and the master raised his guard ready to react. Bruce's fist moved, and the master stumbled backward holding his chest, completely shocked because he never saw the punch coming. His eyes registered nothing but a blur, and his hands never moved to block. Other masters in the room went silent because this shouldn't be possible against someone of his skill level. Bruce did it again with different volunteers, and every single one failed to react in time. His speed was devastating, but his training equipment told an even crazier story. Number 19. Unbelievable custom punching bags. Bruce Lee had punching bags destroyed easily during training sessions. He needed something stronger, so equipment makers built him custom heavy bags weighing 300 pounds. Bruce destroyed those too within weeks, so they made them heavier and reinforced them with chains and metal plates inside. Eventually, his bags weighed up to 700 pounds and had metal cores, but even those showed serious damage. Gym owners had never seen anything like it, because normal heavy bags last for years with regular fighters. Bruce's punches and kicks carried so much force that standard equipment simply couldn't survive, and the makers had to keep redesigning his gear with materials meant for industrial use, not martial arts training. Those devastating strikes became even more impressive when delivered through the air. Number 18. Kicks that sent bodies flying. Bruce Lee's kicks looked different from everyone else's because he combined speed, balance, and power in ways that seemed to break the laws of physics. When he demonstrated on volunteers wearing protective padding, they'd fly backward and crash into walls several feet away. Bruce stayed perfectly stable on one leg like he was rooted to the ground, and he could chain multiple kicks together without putting his foot down. His hip flexibility and core strength created kicking power that physics calculations said shouldn't come from someone his size. Yet Bruce could also channel that power with surgical precision. Number 17. Matchstick, nunchuck, trick. Bruce Lee set up matchsticks in difficult spots around a room, then lit them with his nunchucks while they were spinning at full speed. The nunchucks whirled around his body in complicated patterns, and at just the right moment, he'd strike a match to light it without knocking it over. This trick required timing that seemed impossible because the nunchucks moved too fast for normal human eyes to track properly. One wrong move would send the matchstick flying across the room, but Bruce hit them perfectly every single time. Martial artists who practice nunchucks daily said this level of accuracy was beyond anything they'd ever witnessed. Bruce's spatial awareness and hand control operated with computer-like precision that amazed everyone who saw it. This precision extended beyond demonstrations into real, unpredictable situations. Number 16. Rooftop bamboo fights. As a teenager in Hong Kong, Bruce Lee participated in underground rooftop fights using bamboo poles as weapons. These weren't controlled sparring matches with rules and referees, they were real street fights where anything could happen and injuries were common. Fighting on rooftops added extra danger because one wrong step could send someone falling off the edge. The bamboo poles were long and awkward to control, requiring completely different skills than regular martial arts. Bruce had to adapt instantly to uneven surfaces, changing weather conditions, and opponents who fought dirty without honor. Many martial artists only train in perfect controlled environments, but Bruce tested himself in unpredictable street scenarios that forced him to develop instincts beyond any formal teaching method. Yet even his daily training routine seemed designed for someone superhuman. Number 15. Workout numbers that sound unreal. Bruce Lee's daily training routine included numbers that sound completely made up, but multiple witnesses confirmed he actually did this every single day. He threw 5,000 punches each morning, followed by 2,000 kicks using both legs. His core workout included 500 reps of different abdominal exercises, and he'd do hundreds of push-ups in various positions throughout the day. Bruce didn't take rest days or ease up when he felt tired. He pushed through with the same intensity 7 days a week. Exercise scientists say this volume of training should lead to overtraining syndrome, where the body breaks down and stops recovering. His metabolism and muscle repair systems worked at speeds that medical research couldn't explain. All this training packed incredible strength into an unusually small frame. Number 14. Strength hidden in a small frame. Bruce Lee weighed only around 135 pounds and stood 5 feet 7 inches tall, making him smaller than most professional fighters. People who met him for the first time often underestimated him because he looked lean and didn't have huge bulging muscles like bodybuilders. Then they'd watch him train, and their jaws would drop in disbelief. Strength coaches studied his muscle density and found his fibers were packed much tighter than normal people. Every pound of his body weight produced more power than 3 or 4 pounds on regular athletes, and his tendons were abnormally thick and strong. Bruce proved that size means nothing when your body operates at maximum efficiency with zero wasted energy or motion. This efficiency showed up most clearly in his razor-sharp precision. Number 13. Precision sharper than instruments. Bruce Lee could stop a full power punch within a millimeter of someone's face without making contact, holding his fist perfectly still in midair. Scientists studying motor control said this level of precision required brain-to-muscle communication faster than what they'd measured in other athletes. He demonstrated this control by having people hold pieces of paper in front of their faces. Then he'd punch and stop exactly at the paper's surface without pushing it. The paper wouldn't even flutter from the air movement, and his fist wouldn't shake or wobble despite the explosive speed before the stop. Neurologists explained that stopping a fast movement is actually harder than starting one because your brain has to fire opposing muscle groups at exactly the right microsecond. Bruce's control under pressure impressed researchers who studied reaction time and fine motor skills for a living. But one legendary fight tested whether Bruce's skills had any limits. Number 12. The legendary duel with Wong Jack Man. A traditional kung fu master named Wong Jack Man challenged Bruce Lee to a private fight because he disagreed with Bruce teaching martial arts to non-Chinese students. They met in a closed room with only a few witnesses, and what happened changed Bruce's entire approach to fighting. The fight lasted longer than Bruce expected because Wong kept evading his strikes. Bruce chased him around the room throwing strikes, and while he won decisively, he wasn't happy with his performance. He'd gotten tired and sloppy, which frustrated him deeply. This experience made Bruce realize traditional kung fu wasn't efficient enough for real combat. He started studying Western boxing, fencing, and other fighting styles to find what actually worked, eventually creating his own system called Jeet Kune Do. The fight exposed his weaknesses and pushed him to evolve beyond traditional boundaries, but other fights showed just how dominant Bruce could be. Number 11. The challenge match that ended in seconds. A highly trained martial artist with years of tournament experience publicly challenged Bruce Lee, thinking his credentials would give him a fair chance. Bruce accepted, and they met with a crowd watching, expecting an exciting back-and-forth battle between two skilled fighters. The match started, and Bruce moved forward calmly without any fancy stance or showy movements. His opponent threw a strong punch aimed at Bruce's head, but before anyone could blink, the challenger was on the ground holding his ribs in pain. The entire fight lasted less than 10 seconds. The challenger got up embarrassed and admitted he never saw the strikes coming, and spectators who'd been excited for a long fight sat there stunned by how fast it ended. Bruce's approach to fighting on camera was completely different, though. Number 10. Fight scenes with real contact. Bruce Lee refused to fake his fight scenes like other actors because he wanted everything to look completely real on camera. He insisted on making actual contact with his co-stars during punches and kicks, just pulling back enough to avoid serious injury. His fellow actors were terrified at first because Bruce's controlled strikes still hurt when they connected. He'd hit them for real, and they had to react naturally to the impact, making the scenes look incredibly authentic. Stunt coordinators had never worked with anyone who fought this way on film. Directors loved the results because audiences could tell the difference between fake movie fighting and Bruce's real techniques. His films changed action cinema forever by showing what martial arts actually looked like, not the exaggerated theatrical versions everyone was used to seeing. But Bruce used fights for more than just defeating opponents. Number 9. Sparring philosophy over victory. Bruce Lee treated sparring sessions as teaching moments rather than competitions he needed to win. When fighting with students or training partners, he'd purposely expose their weaknesses by letting them attack, then showing them exactly why their technique failed. He'd stop mid-fight to explain what they did wrong and demonstrate the correct way to move or strike. His partners learned more from these sessions than they would from any formal lesson, because Bruce made them feel their mistakes in real time. Some people thought this approach was arrogant, but Bruce genuinely wanted everyone to improve and reach their full potential. He believed martial arts was about personal growth and self-knowledge, not proving you're better than someone else through fighting. His training methods were just as unconventional as his philosophy. Number 8. Unique training routines. Bruce Lee created training exercises that didn't exist in traditional martial arts because he studied how the body actually worked. He combined weight training with martial arts practice, when most masters said lifting weights would make fighters slow and muscle-bound. He used electrical muscle stimulation devices to make his abs contract harder during workout, which was considered weird and dangerous at the time. Bruce also practiced visualization techniques where he'd imagine fighting scenarios in his mind to improve his reaction patterns. His home gym had custom equipment designed specifically for movements that helped his fighting style. While other martial artists just repeated the same forms their teachers had done for centuries, Bruce constantly experimented with new methods to push his body further. Yet his most radical ideas came from questioning everything traditional. Number 7. Philosophy that rejected tradition. Bruce Lee shocked the martial arts world by publicly saying that traditional styles were too rigid and limited. He argued that following old forms without questioning them was like wearing someone else's shoes that don't fit your feet. His famous quote, "Be like water," meant adapting to any situation instead of sticking to one fighting style.
Don't try to pull yourself up.
Traditional masters hated this idea because it went against everything they'd been taught about respecting ancient techniques. Bruce created Jeet Kune Do based on taking what works and throwing away what doesn't, regardless of where it came from. He mixed Western boxing with Kung Fu, added fencing footwork, and borrowed from wrestling, creating something completely new that traditional purists considered disrespectful. One particular boxing match showed why Bruce felt so limited by rules. Number 6. Boxing match with Gary Elms. Bruce Lee sparred with professional boxer Gary Elms in a friendly match using strict boxing rules. This meant no kicks, no trapping hands, and no techniques from Bruce's martial arts background, just punching within the rules of Western boxing. Bruce felt extremely frustrated during the match because his greatest weapons were taken away by the rule set. He couldn't use the leg kicks that were his specialty, and the boxing gloves felt clumsy compared to his precise bare-handed strikes. Gary held his own using proper boxing technique, which impressed Bruce, but also annoyed him. After the match, Bruce complained that rules limited what fighting could be, and this experience reinforced his belief that real combat shouldn't have artificial restrictions. Despite these frustrations, Bruce's impact on Hollywood was massive. Number 5. Hollywood martial arts influence. Bruce Lee changed how martial arts appeared in movies forever, making Hollywood completely rethink action scenes. Before him, fight choreography looked stiff and unrealistic, with obvious fake punches that missed by miles. Bruce brought speed, power, and authenticity that audiences had never seen before. His films like Enter the Dragon became worldwide sensations, and suddenly every action movie wanted martial arts sequences. He proved that Asian actors could be leading men in Western cinema, breaking down racial barriers that had existed for decades. Studios started hiring real martial artists instead of just dancers who learned basic moves. Bruce's influence spread beyond kung fu movies into regular action films, and even today, fight coordinators study his work to understand how to make combat look genuine on screen. Off-camera, Bruce dedicated himself to teaching his revolutionary system. Number 4. Teaching Jeet Kune Do. Bruce Lee developed Jeet Kune Do as his personal martial arts philosophy and began teaching it to select students. The name means weight of the intercepting fist, and it focused on simplicity, directness, and freedom from traditional forms.
Very good shadow boxing.
He taught famous students like Steve McQueen, James Coburn, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in private lessons at his home. Bruce didn't create a formal school with ranks and belts because he hated the rigid hierarchy of traditional martial art. Each student learned techniques tailored to their own body type and abilities, rather than following one standard curriculum. Bruce wanted people to discover their own path instead of blindly copying him, which is why Jeet Kune Do is more of a philosophy than a fixed fighting style with set techniques. While revolutionizing martial arts, Bruce somehow maintained his family life. Number 3. Family balance amid fame. Bruce Lee managed to be a dedicated father and husband despite his intense training schedule and growing fame in Hollywood. He spent quality time with his wife Linda and their 2 children, making family dinners a priority even on busy filming days. His kids remembered him as playful and loving at home, completely different from his intense on-screen persona. Bruce taught them martial arts basics, but never pressured them to become fighters, wanting them to find their own passions in life. He worked incredibly hard to provide for his family while chasing his dreams, often training late at night after his children went to bed. Bruce proved that dedication to your craft doesn't mean abandoning the people you love, inspiring others to find balance between ambition and family. But Bruce's journey to fame actually started very early in his life. Number 2. A star since childhood. Bruce Lee appeared in his first film as a baby just 3 months old, carried on screen by his father, who was a famous Cantonese opera star. By age 6, Bruce had his first starring role in a Hong Kong movie. He acted in over 20 films as a child and teenager, becoming well known in Hong Kong cinema before he ever practiced martial arts seriously. This early exposure to cameras and performing made him comfortable on screen in ways most martial artists could never achieve. His acting experience helped him later in life when he wanted to bring martial arts to Hollywood, because he understood filmmaking from the inside. Bruce wasn't just a fighter who learned to act, he was an experienced performer who happened to be an incredible martial artist. Yet his dedication to physical perfection led to a controversial decision. Number 1. Sweat gland removal. Bruce Lee had his underarm sweat glands surgically removed because he hated how sweating looked on camera during shirtless fight scenes. This cosmetic procedure was extremely rare and considered risky, but Bruce wanted to look perfect on film. Doctors warned him that removing sweat glands could affect his body's ability to cool down during intense physical activity. Bruce went ahead anyway, prioritizing his on-screen appearance over potential health risks that medical professionals explained to him. Some people think this decision contributed to his tragic early death because his body couldn't regulate temperature properly during workout. Whether true or not, it showed how far Bruce would go to achieve his vision of perfection, sometimes pushing beyond what was safe or reasonable in his pursuit of greatness. These 30 moments reveal a man who lived beyond normal human limit. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.